Hello, in this video we are going to discuss diffusion. Diffusion is a coping skill that allows to manage negative thoughts. In this video we are going to discuss what is fusion, what is diffusion, some examples of fusion and diffusion, and practical ways of practicing diffusion and some exercises that would allow us to master this coping skill. So before I move forward, I just want to mention that even though I have a PhD, it's in mathematics. I am not a psychologist, and I speak about these matters from a point of view of somebody who just learned about these skills on her own. And I just want to share these skills because I found them very effective, and I want people to know about them, and so that using those skills can improve the quality of life of those who know about them. And another thing that I want to mention is that this video is a part of a playlist on psychological hygiene. And so there are some other coping skills and an introductory video that are linked down below that you can follow. So let us talk about what is fusion. So fusion is a state of mind where I think and I believe that my thoughts and me are the same. So I believe that my thoughts truly represent the reality, and whatever I think is absolutely true, and my thoughts are inseparable from me, from my body, from my emotions, from my behavior. Diffusion, on the other hand, is a process where I start realizing that my thoughts are just a process in my mind. And even though my thoughts are part of me, they are not necessarily all of me, and it's something that my mind proposes to me that I may or may not agree to, and that my thoughts are not necessarily true representation of the reality, and they are not necessarily the whole of me. So diffusion is a process of separating myself from from my own thoughts, even though realizing that my thoughts are a part of me, but separating the sense of my whole being from just my own part. It's almost like I would think that if I have, if my pinky is hurting, so suppose I was cutting bread and I hurt my pinky, and for a moment I would think I would feel some pain, and I would kind of maybe make a sound, and I would feel like that pain is whole of me. But then after a while I would attend to the wound, and I would realize, yes, that my pinky is a part of me and I have a wound there, but it's not all of me. So similarly we can develop this kind of attitude toward our thoughts. So I just want to give one example. So suppose we are talking about Tina, so a hypothetical person, Tina. So what would fusion look like? So Tina is having a thought, and the thought is, I am a failure. So imagine this kind of picture that Tina, and there's this thought in her mind, I am a failure, and she really feels like a failure, and she feels down because of that. Her mood is affected, and she doesn't want to work on her homework or do any other tasks that she wants to accomplish because she has had a thought that she is a failure, and she really believed it, and she thinks it's the reality. So that would be an example of fusion. An example of diffusion would be sort of Tina realizing, oh, I'm just having a thought that I'm a failure, and just looking at that thought as if it was something that has crossed her mind, but it's really not her. So she's not necessarily debating this thought or having a conversation with the thought. She's not engaging with the thought, but she's looking at the thought and just realizing that that's a thought that crossed her mind, but it's not all of her. So she's just kind of observing a thought. So that's an example. So this is an example of diffusion. So now we have seen an example of how fusion and diffusion may look like. So then you may ask, well, how do I practice diffusion? Because our thoughts, they cross our mind, and at every moment of time we may have one or two or three and a lot of thoughts in our mind. So how do we learn to practice diffusion? How do we learn not to allow negative thoughts affect us more than we want to? So here's one example. So suppose Tina is having the thought, I'm a failure, and she feels affected by the thought, and she feels discomfort and unpleasant emotions. So her mood is down, she might be feeling sad, and so she's realizing, oh, I'm just had this thought, I'm a failure. So if she wants to practice diffusion, what Tina can do is she can tell herself or even write it down. So this is my thought, I am a failure. So Tina writes this down, and then she writes down right next to it, I am having the thought that I am a failure. So just rephrasing this thought, instead of writing down and thinking I am a failure, rephrasing it and writing down or just thinking in our mind, I am having the thought that I'm a failure. It already distances us from our thought and helps us to realize that our thoughts are not us. So when Tina does that, it helps her to realize I'm having the thought that I am a failure, but it's just a thought. And again, if Tina would debate this thought or engage with it, that would still be fine. That would be a different coping skill that is called cognitive appraisal or a thought log, and I covered it in a different video, which is linked down below. But as far as diffusion goes, it's just for Tina to realize that she's having that thought and the thought is not her. So that's one way to practice diffusion. Another way to practice this diffusion is to observe the thought and just to say, thank you, mind. So Tina observes this thought, and so she realizes she's having this thought, I am a failure. And she just says, thank you, mind. The thought is noted, thanks for proposing it to me, thank you, and just moving on and continuing to do what she was doing. So that's another way to practice diffusion. One more way to practice diffusion is this exercise. So it's something that we may want to practice on a regular basis so that we become better at practicing diffusion when we really need to. So it's a classic exercise where we imagine that there is a stream in the woods, for example, and there are leaves on the stream. So the leaves fall from the trees, and there are leaves on the stream, and the stream takes the leaves down in the direction in which the stream is flowing. And so what we can do is for about 10 minutes, we can imagine, just kind of take a few deep breaths and start a meditation, and just whenever we notice a thought in our mind, we imagine that we are a wizard, and so we just put the thought on a leaf on the stream, and we just watch the thought going down the stream. It can be a thought, it can be an image that we have in our mind, it can be any form in which we are able to perceive thoughts in our mind. And so as soon as we notice this thought, or for example, I am bored, I put it on the leaf, or I'm not sure how to do this meditation, I'm not sure I'm doing this right, I just put it on a leaf and I just watch it going down the stream. Or I need to call somebody in 10 minutes. I put this thought on the stream. So you get the idea, right? So that's another way to practice diffusion. So again, when we do that, when we put our thoughts on the leaf and we just watch them pass by, we sort of separate ourselves from the thought process that goes on in our mind. So these are some few classical way of practicing this diffusion. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. This way you will support this channel, you'll support this work, and you will help YouTube to promote these videos so others will be able to see the videos as well. I would like to hear in your comments your thoughts about these videos, and if you practice diffusion and how it went for you. And if you have any other suggestions about future videos, that would be wonderful as well. So have a nice day, and hope to connect with you in some other video.